All right, so now what we got to do is we're going to take the transparencies that we did from finding our contour lines that we did from the originals, right? We traced to find the areas of value, okay? Now what we're going to do is I'm going to keep the reference there so I can still see the areas of shade with the light and dark, but I'm going to take my transparency, I'm just going to stick it on top of a piece of white paper so it's easier to be, makes it easier to see. I have my redrawn, okay, the new drawings, the new versions done with the blocking techniques, and everything is set up as it was before. Um, so I've got the 4 sketches that I redid for the contours, because again, these are different sizes and different shapes, and they're in different spaces, and the lighting is affecting them differently. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the values that I have here. I'm going to look at where I use those contour lines to trace the edges of separation, and I'm just going to start to put them in as I see them in the transparency tracing to help me decide and to figure out where the contour lines are going to be, where there are value separations. Okay, so I'm just bringing that down next to it, and I'm just going to continue with the process of putting the values in with a light pencil line, because again, some of the values that are in this are very, very light. And the transition from light value to medium value to dark value is a smooth transition. Okay, so I got to keep any lines I make, I have to keep them smooth so that they don't get too harsh. So I'm just lightly blocking in some of those values so that I can see where the shading is going to go. So I've got this as a highlight under here. So nice broken line because the value is not a sharp value. And then it gets to here. And it kind of follows the contour, right? That contour of the cone is coming down from there. I can see I got a little bit of a shadow back in there. Now, I have to look at the areas of cast shadow, which I traced here. So those are going to need to be put in as well, because that's going to help establish the ground and where the forms are sitting. So I'm just really just copying the lines that I traced to find the areas of value. So that's the cast shadow going off. And there's a little bit of shadow right under there. And that one's done. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the teapot and just put the traced values in where I have now I have a reflective surface, and I have these areas of reflection that I need to represent with the contour lines. Now again, on this, all those little squiggles are representative of all the different values inside the reflective glass. So I'm going to take my time and really focus in on where those changes are in transition. All right, and it's going to look very linear. There's going to be a lot of lines going on in here, but that's just the way it is with seeing those blocking lines behind everything. It's okay because this got a little bit too harsh. And then it's okay because right now we're just learning to see where the values are going to be. So we're not shading, all right? That is not the goal of this assignment to figure out how to shade or to try to shade these. We're going to do plenty of that later on. So I see some of the value changes between here and here. All right, that continues down there. Strong white highlight right here. And then just a couple other value changes in that. There's some up top here. So just recreating the lines. See that highlight goes underneath of that wrapping. Now, the surface texture of this, you need to, again, follow the contour of the form, follow the shape of the form. And you saw when we traced it, I didn't trace every single line. All of those lines are just following the areas of value, because this area over here is darkest and the lightest over here, but it's never pure white or totally empty. When I do the shading, I would just leave some of that area open But these lines are the contours of how the light affects the wrapping going around the glass. So, I'm going to just kind of texturally put some of that stuff in, and I can see there's a nice strong highlight along the top. That's what this is. So I need to show the texture of that highlight. It's a little bit lighter over here, so it's more of a broken line. So there's fewer lines over here, but this is left open because this would all be a dark shadow. Generally, there's this curvature right in there that makes up the cast shadow on this part of the bottle. Okay, so now I'm going to do the last one here. This is a very reflective surface, and I've got a good variety of strong white highlights here, and then a transition, and then some medium values, and then another transition. So, these are going to be a little bit more simplified too. And if you look at the highlights on the lid, right, you can see that they're just kind of along this edge. So just want to make sure that I'm putting them in light pencil line. And then there's a strong highlight along here on those two rims, right? It's a little bit of a contour highlight right here, right there and there. And now I'm going to come down and just kind of draw that broken line along the highlight edge. And then how it affects these ribs, right? You can see it kind of goes in and out here. It's not a straight line because this has curves going in it. And then I've got to just go back in and put the rest of the cast shadows in up along here. So you can see